Hello everybody. Another homework problem from chapter 3 in which we're going to find the range, standard deviation, and variance. Again, structure your homework problems the same way every time you work it. First thing that we need to do, find the total number of data values. So what does n equal for this problem? 5. Rearrange our data numerically. It's the next thing we need to do. So 4, 24, 33, 59, and 81, or 88, sorry. And for what we have here, what I've done is I've cut the data size down for most of your problems that you have. With the reason I did that is just for simple time in the video and download content. Okay, so I now have these rewritten numerically. So the first thing I want to do is I want to find the range. And the range is my maximum data value less my minimum data value. So I have my maximum, 88, minus my minimum, which is 4. And that will give me 84. Range is distance. That's what we're looking at here. We're just looking at the distance between the two numbers. If you need to, view it as a number line. Here's 81 on the number line, and here's 4. It is the distance between the two. Next thing that I would like to look at is standard deviation. The formula for standard deviation, sample standard deviation, S, is the square root of the sum. That's sigma. Probably not written very well, sorry. Sigma. That's a Greek letter, sigma. Okay. The sum of the difference between my x values and my mean. And here is the mean. We've already covered that. Divide it by my total number of data values less 1. So let's actually talk about our x values. Each one of these is an x value. And how I distinguish between each one, because they're all x values, is I put a little sub number next to them. And that simply means that this is a different measurement than this. So x sub 1 is a different measurement than x sub 2. They can still have the same numeric values, but it's like getting on the scale each day weighing yourself. Very rarely will you weigh yourself, you'll have the same weight every time you weigh yourself. But they should all be kind of close together. But each one of those is a different measurement that you've taken. So each one of these is a different x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the difference between each individual x and the mean, which I've already calculated for the sake of time. And then I'm going to find that difference, square them, and then add them all together. So this is how my problem will look. Is I will start with my first data value, 4, and I will write those in green so it stands out. So 4 minus the mean, 41.6 squared, plus my next data value, 24, minus 41.6 squared. And I will keep doing that until I get to my last data value. And in this data set, it is 88 minus 88, or 88 minus 41.6 squared. And everything will be placed over my value of n, which is 5, minus 1. Now this can be confusing whenever you write it all out. It's like it's horizontally linear, so it's sometimes it's tough for us to conceptualize that math. You can take each one of the, you can do it like this. You can take each one and write out the answer, take the difference, square it, write it down, difference, square, write it down, and have it set up to where the sum is given for each of those values inside the parentheses. Another way to do it that does help, and it helps it structurally, is to rewrite your problem like this. And I'll do it over here to the side. So I have 4 minus 41.6 squared. and I'm going to go through here and do this for each data point. But I'm setting up my work to where there's a little work horizontally, but whenever I add, it's going to be vertically. And that helps some people conceptually. It helps them to be able to see the problem better. It does give a little bit more structure and not seem as daunting. So I do this for each one of my points. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that difference and square it and write it over here. So using my calculator, 4 minus 41.6. Notice I get a negative answer. That's why I square. I don't want any negative under my radical. Do you remember the Pythagorean theorem? This is where this comes from, the distance formula. And we keep working through here. And my last one. Here we go. And now your work is structured to where you can sum those. Type them into your calculator. And that's what I have. I've just solved for my numerator everything that I'd have written here by working it this way. Either way is fine. Either way is fine. What I end up with will be the same numerical values, 4,253.2 divided by 5 minus 1, 4. I end up with the standard deviation. Whoops. There we go. Of 32.608. Let's say my answer told me round it to the tens place or one decimal. This is my answer, 32.6. That's my standard deviation. Okay, my last thing I'm told to find is variance. Variance is simply s squared. So this is where I caution you for when working your problems. Variance is s squared. If I simply take what they told me to round here for my standard deviation, that may not be acceptable in the problems. I apologize about that. It's like two different people made problems. There's two different ways in which they accept answers. There's no rhyme or reason to them. So what I tell you to do is that we can look at this. If we're going to have two ways to look at it, I can either square 32.6 or I can square 32.6 0.8281116. Okay, and I'm going to get different answers. What you'll see, so let's just square this one down here because that's what I already have in my calculator. Whenever I square it, look what I get as my answer. I get what is under the radical. I get what's under the radical as my answer. The number that's under your radical before you take the square root of it is your answer for variance. Because if I put in this and square, I'm going to have a smaller answer. I'm off in the ones place. You see that? I'm off by about 6/10 between this value and this value. Again, the number under the radical is your variance. So it's really, finding range is simple. Finding standard deviation, the math that we have to do in there is not difficult math. We're subtracting, we're multiplying, we're adding, and then we're dividing. That's not difficult math. The difficult nature of it is in keeping everything in line and structuring it. That's why this way is generally the best, because you can have 7 or 8 data points. The more data points you get, that adds credence to being able to use technology. Simply have your data in there and be able to do it with just a push of a button. I want you to know how to do it by hand also. Again, it is not a requirement to have the TI 83 or 84 plus to be able to do these problems. The problems that I have for you will be to where you can do them by hand, and whenever I show you how to do them, I will do them by hand also. Alright guys, make sure that you're watching the instructor videos on the concepts in the content, and make sure that you are structuring your homework, doing it the same way each time, and that it's done correctly. You do not have to work the problems the way that I show you how to work them. Work them the way that you think. And good luck with your homework.